Okay, so, I'm having audio issues. I have no idea how to get my headset to work again. So, I'm doing what I can. Book club, are you there? Can someone just say
I am
hi
there.
so I can hear what's up?
Can you hear me?
I am there.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. That's not working. I'll try another one. This is not working. This is not working. Oh, thank you. I said okay. This is good. Oh my gosh, give me 2 seconds. This is now working for some strange reason. Headphones done. Headphones done. Alright, chat, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, thank
Yep.
God. Welcome to book club. Welcome to book club. Oh my goodness. You know those days where you try to have a nap but your brain won't let you, but you need one? Your body's like, please. I had that. I had that. I have a beer. Hey peeps. New month. Oh no. I thought that was supposed to taste better. I'm drinking a blonde. You would think that it would taste better. This tastes like a pea shat itself. And they fermented it for a while. Oh. New month, new book. Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. We have covered a book of hers before, Mexican Gothic for Nerdist Book Club, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So we're doing the follow-up from the author, which I'd love to read about. With book chats, we do 2 a month. The first and second Wednesday of the month. We take a week off so that we can prep for the Nerdist Book Club of the month, which happens at the last Wednesday. But then we all jump into the Discord for the after show. It's pretty sweet. Hello, Panzer Lagwagon. How are ya? Great name. Thanks for the sub. Appreciate that. Toaster Poster says, hi Maude, let's do this. Books. I like that. We really should have had like a book emote. Yeah. That's going to happen a lot, those burps. Don't worry, the fun part is there's a burp counter. 55. What do you think, Kayla? A book one could be kind of cool. I don't know. Just like brainstorming. Welcome to Kayla Face, who is one of the brand new Geek Bomb staff members. She's taking care of a lot of the graphics that you've seen lately and all the really fun sub emote update that we got for hitting 10,000 followers. Whoop, whoop, whoop. They're really, really cool. Colleen says, I need something positive this week. This news has been so devastating. I have hit an emotional wall when it has come to just what to feel, because I think devastating is a great word to use for it. It's just like almost like a bad news assault. Are you kidding me, Panzer Lagwagon? Oh my gosh, Colleen, you wanted something positive. Why can't I hear all of the alerts? Oh, I locked them. Yay! What you would have heard was Panzer Lagwagon has donated 25 gift subs. 25 of them. Wow, this is your first time chat. Tell us about yourself. Thanks for dropping on by and delivering the goods. You've taken the #1 spot for gift subs. I'll tell you who you've just gifted them to. Kiwi325, Pink Sync, F8 Photo, sorry, Tony L, hello Tony L, Lucifer M Stars, Adamabra, Bic3, MJ My Time, Rycops, Born with a Beard, John Olero, oh gosh dear, Spunky Sun, Monkey Bars, Poker Face, Silent Kagemusha, Al Captain 87. Akadoro. Some of these are so tricky. Why you do it to me? Ed Waters. Molly Bodie. Thomas Beach. Nah. I like it. You like? Do you want to go to the beach? No. Hudsonizer. Zephyr Strikes. Human Casualty 42. You little what? You little what? What? And Automedon. Thank you so much for everyone and gifting the subs. If you got gifted a sub, make sure you say thank you like Human Casualty 42 just did. Used to watch you on SourceFed. Panzer, thank you so much for that. I'm still nerding out here on Twitch. It's a lot of fun. We do book chat, and this is the book that we are currently reading. We've got a Google Doc that only the Patreon backers have access to of all the talking points that we're going to be getting stuck into over the next 2 hours. It's going to be a lot of fun. Usually to kick it off, though, we get first impressions from everyone. Hello, Avery. Dinner ran a little late. Lovely to have you in here. What we usually do, if you want to get involved in the book chat discussion group, it is a Patreon perk. $5 a month gets you access to both the 2-hour shows at the beginning and access to the after show on the last Wednesday of the month as well. If you've been looking for a book club, you love reading fantasy and sci-fi books, but you need a little accountability and you want to sort of read more and be a part of a really cool discussion with an amazing community. Not even biased, it is. Even if I was an observer, I'd be pretty impressed. You can sign up to the Patreon to get all of that. I think more people should read. I love talking about books. I recently did a Patreon video called Powered Down, where I chat with fellow SourceFed alumni Trisha Hirschberger, and we talk about the things that we don't usually post about. And one of them was studying English in high school, and I bloody hated it. I hated reading the books. I hated dissecting it. I hated having to write essays about the themes of the book. And I think it was True Scorn, who's listening and in the chat right now, said, what changed? When did you start liking books? And I was like, when it was my choice to do so. When I got to choose the books. My mum's an avid reader. Actually, my dad is as well. Big readers in the family. And, excuse me. There you go. Molly Bodie says, thank you so much for the gift sub. Don't thank me. Thank Panzer. Thank you, Panzer. Colleen says, there's so many books that I would not have known and loved without this book club. Yeah, it's always fun to kind of expand your repertoire. Cash22 said, oh, you just want to challenge yourself to read an entire book by the time the rest of the group reads half of it. What are you reading ahead, Cash22? Did you read ahead? Spoilers. English class is why a lot of people stop reading, unfortunately, says Miss Necromancer. Yeah. Oh, he's shading me. Oh. Oh. I'll have a little cry about that. Listen, I am always a big supporter and proponent of reading ahead. If the book is so good that you can't put it down, who am I to tell you to stop? As long as we don't spoil. If you don't have a poker face and you're a host of a book club show, maybe not the smartest then. There you go. Oh yeah, Cash26 said, no, I joined with that challenge from Project Hail Mary. We were already halfway through it, and Catch22 had to finish the dang book, which he did, with a little bit of time to spare. Alrighty, first impressions from the book chat discussion group. We've got lovely names sitting there waiting to chat about it. I'm going to randomly read a name, so have a little statement prepared about what you're thinking of Gods of Jade and Shadow, spoiler-free, thus far. Michelle, we'll start with you, love.
Sure. I'm really enjoying it. It's the world building, like I feel like I'm there. I think she does such a great job with descriptors without being like overblown. And you know, we were just coming off of the Night Circus and how poetic that prose is, and I feel like Silvia Moreno-Garcia is also very poetic in the way she writes, but in a completely different style, so I'm really enjoying that. But I just feel totally sucked in, and it's great.
Oh, I love hearing that. We are I think reading a lot of books that have that fantastical kind of fairy tale aspect to it, and I love it. I love it. Hey, Mini White Rabbit, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to Book Chat. We're getting first impressions of Gods of Jade and Shadow. Spoiler free. There's a huge difference between Maude and the Discord. Oh yeah, I see it. Get over here, Maude's microphone. Mini White Rabbit says, this book is so good. All of Silvia's books are incredible. I will say that Silvia Moreno-Garcia has a Patreon. She has written an abundance of books. I don't know how that opened. If you a quick Google brings up her website, which I will conveniently post in the chat for everyone. And if you do want to support her, because she's read books like Velvet, whoa, it keeps a little slideshow. The Tiger Came to the Mountains, Velvet Was the Night, it sure was, baby, I did this one for you. Mexican Gothic, Gods of Jade and Shadow, The Beautiful Ones, Certain Dark Things, Signal to Noise, The Return of the Sorceress, Prime Meridian, which looks very sci-fi astronauty, This Strange Way of Dying, The Daughter of Dr. Moreau. Whoa, a lot of books. Mini White Rabbit says, Mexican Gothic got me into her work. Gods of Jade and Shadow made me cry. Beautiful Ones was a very wonderful slow burn. And Kate says, I believe that Certain Dark Things is getting a re-release very soon. Mini White Rabbit says, big fan, saw your tweet in my feed about this book and lost it. Love it so much. Well, Mini White Rabbit, lovely for you to join. I'm so glad you can be a part of this. A little recap, we do a book a month for Geek Bomb and we do a book a month for Nerdist. But we split the Geek Bomb book over 2 weeks. The first and second Wednesday of the week, we talk about it for 2 hours a piece. Because this is the first Wednesday of the month, we're going to be talking about the first half of this book only. And usually that's world building, the introduction to the characters, the story that we're presented, how we feel about it. And then the second half will be sort of like the story, the plot points, what we felt about it. So this is going to be talking a little bit more about the characters and the world building this time around, if that helps, to kind of figure out what you can discuss and what to avoid. Second half of the book spoilers. But, oh, it was released in September. There you go. Okay, good to know, good to know. And if you do want to be a part of the actual book club chat discussion, we have a Discord that's under lock and key. It is a Patreon perk to get access to a 24/7 reading channel where we always talk about what we're reading. Oh, this beer is going to be the death of me. And you're able to actually chime in with the discussions on the Twitch chat. We have a Goodreads too. We have a Goodreads. We're about, did we hit 100 yet, Lisa? We've been flirting on 99 for so long. I wonder if we could get an update. But I think we have, do we have book club? Do we have, no, that's that one. Book chat.
Yeah, it looks like we are at 100 members now.
We did it? I'm just trying to think what the prompt is for our, there it is. No. Yeah, there it is. Come join our Goodreads. If you want to join up and be a part of that, you're more than welcome to as well. We got 100! Yay! Thank you, Lisa. Hey, Lisa, well, I got you. Do you want to talk to me about your spoiler-free first impressions of Gods of Jade and Shadow?
Sure. Right now, I'm having a hard time actually getting into it, and I think it's just me maybe being in a little bit of a reading slump.
Whoa.
I'm liking the mythology stuff and learning about that because I didn't know any of that. But I don't know if it's the audiobook, just having a hard time getting into the characters. Like I really could care less about what's happening to them. So I don't know. I'll see how the rest of the book goes. It's starting to get a little bit better, but it's definitely taken me a while to get into it.
I think I know why. Because I'm having it too. We have a different narrator for this book. This is not the same narrator as Mexican Gothic, which took me straight into it, which I absolutely just fell into. Oh, Black Belt. Nick's feeling... Is it... No, J Bunt... No, Black Belt. Nick, why aren't you in the Discord? Felt the same way about that one. I
I think the big part to me is it comes. I know she's supposed to be like 18, but her character kind of comes off younger. And I don't know if it's how it's written or just how the narrator is narrating it. Like it just seems really young to me, and I'm not liking that part.
I actually am having more problem with Hunkame and how they speak. So Moreno-Garcia was happy to have a Latinx narrator. I love that as well. I think that we had the same thing for Mexican Gothic. I think authentically Spanish-speaking narrators are fundamental to how to say, like, these words are tricky for me. If I were to, how I would read them phonetically and how they are pronounced are vastly different. So for that, I appreciate. My issue is it always goes back to what makes a good audible narrator. And it's not just reading the words, it's telling the story. And I think that actors who really understand character differentiation, character nuances, shifts in how they speak, but normalizing it as if you're listening to a conversation that's actually taking place. That is a skill set. That is something that a lot of narrators just haven't really gotten. And my issue that I have with this particular narrator, and I'm very hesitant to say it because they're doing their damn best. They were chosen. They are crushing it in their own right. I am just personally struggling with when they read dialogue, it sounds like a bad actor from a soap. It actually sounds like, again, I feel terrible saying this. It sounds like what actors do when they are trying to sound like someone that can't act. For example, let's say the dialogue is talking about being frustrated, getting ready for the day. And the narrator will be like, Maude hesitantly sighed and stepped out of the bed. I hate getting up early in the mornings. I find that I get oh so tired. When, oh when, can I sleep in from time to time? Does that make sense, Lisa? Are we on the same page with that?
That's exactly it, and it's worse for how do you say his name, Hekame? Like his is worse, I think, than hers is too.
His is. It sounds like a very bad. It sounds like I collected a room full of accountants and I put scripts in their hands and I was like, do your best. Do your best. So I am the same. When we are taught, when this is a tale, a story rich in fairy tale and lore and mysticism, I want to be swept away on it. I want to feel and be transported, and I'm really struggling with that. I'm going to read out some of the comments about this. Fatal Flower says, my husband heard me listening to the audiobook and thought the narrator was Siri. Again, as someone who is a performer, someone that is paid to do their best with whether it's an opinion or whether it's a performance, I really hate knocking people because I just put myself in their shoes. If I were to hear this conversation, it would absolutely crush my day. But I think, we're just talking about different styles. Yeah, this one, but I just feel bad putting more shit out in the world when we're already kind of literally wading through it. But yeah, Kate says, must be the narrator. The character doesn't feel young when you read it. But Black Belt's feeling the same way. True Scorn said, I only made it to chapter 10. I like the concept. You're weighing in. Fantastic. I only made it to chapter 10. I like the concept and the world of 1920s is neat to see. The prose, however, not a fan. The writing feels a little clunky. Maybe it is the audiobook and in the flickering tone. Yes, okay. Avery says, yeah, I don't think Cassiopeia comes across as all that young either, and I'm just reading the physical copy. Interesting. I personally didn't see or hear Cassiopeia as being too young. I actually thought she sounded a little bit older than 18, so that's a really interesting sort of like perspective shift that we've had in that one, but it sounds like we're exactly the same with what's going on with the male characters. Kate says she actually comes across as old in the book. Like she's just been so downtrodden by her life that it's prematurely aged her. She gives me, as when we talk about God, she gives me quite old soul vibes, actually. Someone who's hasn't lost the fight, is, you know, has a sense of wisdom and adventure, hasn't been broken. Yeah. Colleen says, I think if she might seem younger at times, it could be because of the isolation and confining environment she grew up in. There you go. Jeff 2.0, hello, you're in there. You've written a comment about how you find Cassiopeia. Do you want to tell me about it?
Sure. Yeah, I'm reading the text. I don't find her especially young. Definitely inexperienced, and definitely sick of her life, even though she's not young. You know, her life so far.
Yeah. I feel like she's someone who's been so denied. It's flaunted.
Absolutely.
Like a life that she could live is being flaunted in front of her every single day. And the patriarch in this instance, is denying her. Yeah. What are your first impressions while I got you there, Jeff 2.0?
I enjoy the book. I enjoy kind of the magic and mythology, kind of learning about it. I think that the writing is kind of straightforward and not super descriptive, in my opinion. It reminds me a little bit like The Good Earth. Like this happened. Okay. But it kind of takes you through and explains some of the culture and architecture, in this case, and history along the way. Which is nice.
I like that. Kate, you have spoken a lot about sort of Cassiopeia as a character, naive, but not. Tell me how you portrayed or how you received Cassiopeia.
Oh, even though she's young, she kind of reminds me of, like, her naivete about the world is a way in, like, school marm would be. Or I have a coworker who's a few years older than me, but she seems so naive and innocent about the world because she's so sheltered from it.
Okay.
That's the kind of the way I feel about Paya, that not old, but in a way because she's essentially like the old maid character, you know what I mean?
Well, I was actually seeing her as a combination of Cinderella and Ariel. I want to be part of that world.
A bit like Cinderella. She definitely is like Cinderella. This, like, she doesn't seem. She seems far more like ground down than Cinderella. Like, I never would see Cassiopeia like singing with birds and, like, you know, singing with mice as she's like sewing a dress. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's just very, she's like dreaming, but all her dreams are very just, I'd like to go to the city.
I want to live.
Like
I want to live where the
her
people
dreams are
are
very simple and kind of raw and like basic and bare bones, which is kind of how I feel like her character is. She doesn't have big lofty dreams.
I want to see him dancing.
Well, I want to see the city.
That's where the Ariel part comes
I'd like to buy a dress.
Yeah.
God, my kitten will not stop attacking me.
That's kind of cute, though. Tell me about your kitten.
Well, he's gigantic. He's a Maine Coon, so even though he's not a year old, he's like 15 pounds already.
Wowie. Cute. Can you send us a picture in the reading Discord?
I can.
Yeah, everyone send your pets.
But she has that kind of feel for me, like, even though she's not old, she has that kind of naivete of a woman who's just never experienced anything, and it doesn't matter that she's young or old. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, she's just watching the world instead of living it. Yeah. Lisa, thank you for using your Prime. And Kate, thank you for using your Prime as well. Appreciate that. Thank you, Pesos. Yeah, Catch22 says, look, a reason a physical copy is better. You get no disappointment from the narrators. I can tell you the pros and cons. Woo, that is a big pro for reading a book. Toasted Poster, I know you're not in the Discord, but I'd really love to hear more on what you've just said about. It might be the narrator or the writing, but these characters have no chemistry. I think they had a bit of... The more human he becomes, the more intense that stare is, the more I'm feeling that chemistry. It's definitely an interesting phenomenon for audiobooks. They are an excellent tool for getting books to more people of various abilities, yes, but at the same time, a bad narrator can absolutely kill a book in a way that the author did not intend at all. So much so that it barely is even the book they wrote anymore. Yes, Kate, completely agree. And also, a lot of the time, it's not the author that is approving the narrator. It is the publisher that completely takes control of all of that. I have a girlfriend, she wrote a book, and she wrote it in first person about her perspective and her interactions. She's a host, so she could have narrated it. And they were like, no, we've already selected someone. And she's like, but I'm talking about my understanding and experience. And so that was a bit, as soon as I heard that story, I was like, oh, come on, they don't care. They don't care. Lisa says, I think it's mostly the way she's being narrated that makes her seem young to me. There you go. Cinder Ariel. I like that, Jimmy. Before we get stuck into everyone else's spoiler-free initial thoughts on the book, the readers, how do you, show of hands or unmute or comment if you were a reader and not a listener, how did you think Cassiopeia was pronounced? I was going to say no wrong answers, but...
I in my mind, I was calling it Cassiopeia because I thought it was funny. I was like, Cassiopeia.
Cassiopeia.
You know, I was just like dropping the A and just like Cassiopeia.
I was a Hermione reader for 4 books, 3.5. B-Rock Vandals. Oh, no, you're on there. Come on, J Buntrock. What did you say? You gonna... Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, I just thought it was Cassiopeia. I just followed it out.
Cassiopeia, you're right.
Yeah.
When I first read the blurb, I thought it was Cassiopeia.
It's like the name Calliope. I first pronounced it as Calliope.
Oh, Calliope. I like that. There you go. Cassiopeia. Yeah, there you go. Avery and I were on the same page with that one. Cassiopeia. Lisa, you said the same as well? Okay, I don't feel so bad. This is why, this is a ding point to audiobooks. You actually get the authentic pronunciations and you know how to say it properly. Avery, now that I got your first impression, spoiler free, of Gods of Shade and Shadow. Jade and Shadow. Of Shade and Shadow.
Yeah, so, well, this is a reread for me. But I still really love it. This is one of my favorite books. I love everything about it. And yeah, upon a reread, I like it just as much as I did the first time. So that makes me happy because, you know, sometimes rereads don't hold up, but this one does.
What are you finding this time around, especially in the first half of the book, whether it's world building or the introduction to the brothers or some of the gods? Are you taking anything else, or is it just like revisiting an old friend?
Honestly, it's just a lot like revisiting an old friend. The plot's not super complex, you know, there's not a lot of like hidden things or whatever. It's a lot of, it's really told like a fairy tale. You know, fairy tales are very straightforward. You kind of see what's laid out before you, and it's all kind of more about exploring the world than it is about, you know, hidden secrets or whatever. So for this one, it's just, it's like that for me. It's very much just like, I just love the story, and I love Silvia Moreno-Garcia's writing personally. Just like, I think it's very just like flowery and poetic, and I just, yeah, I love the world. I love the way she so effortlessly works in history and culture into the story. Like sometimes authors can get bogged down with that, but the way that she does it, it like fits in so well, and I don't know, it's just, I just really, really love the story, so.
Yay! Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you. Isaac, do you want to jump in the reading part? Are you there? You're there! Hi, Isaac! I just saw your comment. Do you want to share more with me?
Hey, everyone. Yeah, this is kind of my kind of book with mythology and gods and the world building that it's doing. I'm really enjoying it. At the very beginning, I was kind of scared because I thought it was going to be like a Cinderella story and she was going to be rescued and and she wasn't like I wasn't expecting her attitude to come up. So I've been really surprised whenever she's giving sorry, whenever she's giving the god some attitude about doing things, and how she's becoming more aware of even what appears to be happening to her, which we haven't gotten to, but
Have you
it's
read
kind of
ahead,
hinting
mister?
that way. So I'm really enjoying it. Actually, I heard until chapter 22,
Okay, that's not so bad.
and then I started back on chapter 1 yesterday and all the way up to 18 now.
Wow.
Because
I
I'm
should
really
put you in
enjoying
the
it.
host seat. Woo-wee. Love that. I hear what you're saying. It is very much the oppressed family member that has to serve upon. Oh, you got to unmute, my man. I mean, remute. Sorry, I'm just getting a little bit of your
Sorry,
background
yep.
noise. That's okay. That was just heard me twice. The family who's so mean to her and has to serve and wait upon them. You're right. It's very, very Cinderella in those ways. I think the most interesting part about Cassiopeia is that she's more confronted by the fact that she's spending close quarters with a man than she is with a god. I love
for
those
sure.
moments where she's talking back and then she kind of checks herself and she's like, oh, that's right. I probably shouldn't have spoken to a god like that. But that you're right, Kate, the Catholic shame of women and sex. But the fact that he's holding her hand, or she'll hold his hand and then realizes, oh my gosh, I'm holding a hand with a man, sleeping in the same bed. Oh, clutch those
just
rosary
touching his
beads.
shoulder, like, did
What
I
was
just
that?
touch his shoulder?
Yeah.
Just touching his shoulder, and like, wait, what? Did I just do that? Why?
But it's like this god has literally forged a part of himself into you and is occupying your literal spirit and essence. And as a parasite, like parasitically stealing your life essence to fulfill his endeavors. And she's just happy to be there. Like when you're presented with two paths and one is having absolutely everything taken away from you and another one is any kind of escape, that's always going to look better. The Cassiopeia and the Hunkame are put into these situations that are typically romantic, and I don't feel anything. She's so naive and he's aloof. Interesting toaster poster. Okay, I love that you're sharing your perspective on these as well. Colleen, tell me about this rebellious Cinderella that you're, I'm guessing, enjoying, and impressions on the book.
Yes, I really am enjoying it. I've studied some Mexican history and have a passing familiarity with the Popol Vuh. So I find all of this just really fascinating, and I love to see how it's kind of put together in combining the myth and the reality. I also see that Cassiopeia is not somebody who's ever going to just give up and accept her place. As much as it's ingrained in her mind, she still doesn't really accept it. She knows there's something better and she wants to try for it.
There's a beautiful moment in here where it's like he's kind of holding her hostage in a way, but she's just so grateful to be out that she's like, her biggest regret is not opening the chest sooner. Now, this is a woman who's 18. She's just become a woman. She's only now 18. And she has to be connected with him until he's completed his task, and it could kill her. And just the fact that she's allowed to see the world, that was enough. That is enough for her. I think that's kind of beautiful that she has been rescued in a sense that she wasn't necessarily rescued. And I'm sure that people have like opinions on that particular aspect. But the fact that at the cost of what it is, this is like almost like it's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. In her case, it's better to have lived and lost than never to have lived at all. And I think that's a huge part of this. But Colleen, thank you so much for that. We haven't heard yet from Sprinkles. How are you finding the book?
Okay. Well, the funny thing is, when I started reading this book, I was just like, oh, seems like oddly familiar. And I was like, what? I looked at the name of the lady that wrote it, and I was like, oh, I have read Mexican Gothic, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I didn't put two and two together before I started reading the book. I know it's silly. But,
I love that, though, that her style is so sort of imprinting. It is so unique to her that it's able to kind of like evoke that memory. Yeah.
But reading the book, now I started reading this book after watching Moana, Encanto, and Coco. I immediately watched all three of those movies before I read this book. Mm-hmm. So while reading this book, I had, like How Far I'll Go, like all the songs. And the thing about the book is that she grows up in a small town, and in a small gathering, and I just remember as my
town, Belle.
Yeah. What?
It's the same as Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
Exactly. See, and so like, and I was like, yeah, I could see that because I grew up in a small town, and like much like Moana, I was always that person. I was always like, yeah, I want to kind of leave, and then I couldn't leave, so eventually did, but that's another story. But anyway, the thing is, it was very moving, again, maybe it was from over Disneying it, but it was still a very moving book.
That's super interesting that you brought that up, that's the piece that you were able to kind of relate to, because until you said that, I didn't even recognize that I'm in exactly the same boat. I grew up in a hometown that I will never move back to, and the only way and place and time that I would ever go back is to see my family that are permanently there. But I left home at sort of like 18, 19, and I never looked back. So you're right. I wonder if there's anyone else in the chat that hard agrees with sort of like that side of things. And that's interesting that it's like a big crucial part of a lot of sort of Disney, again, that fairy tale-esque, that sense of dream and adventure and exploration. If anyone else is kind of like relating to that and has a similar story with it. Kate, I love this sort of, not a segue, but this pivot in conversation. Really quickly, before we get into the relationships, Vaidin, how are you finding the book?
Oh, okay. I'm finding it pretty good. I'm not super into it, I would say, but I'm enjoying it overall. Like, I don't know much about Mayan mythology, but all the reference to like Lord Shaba and all that stuff, or the Shababa and the Lord of the Dead and all this stuff is very interesting to me.
I can relate to that as well. I notice, especially with audiobooks, when I do get info dumped, I need just a little bit longer to connect the dots and process, because the narrator is obviously talking about these big things in such an effortless way, but my brain can't compute the meaning behind it because I'm learning it for the first time. And that is disrupting my listening experience because I just don't have enough of the information. I'm learning it as we go. So I think, like Avery, I would actually probably benefit from a second read, going in with that information the first time around. But I think that is causing a little bit of a disconnect for me because I'm learning the subject matter for the first time. And yeah, the language, when she kind of goes into both Spanish and English, like I think I joke about this, even though it's the saddest thing ever. Like 60% of Australians call it a quesadilla. Like I wish that was a joke. We are just so far removed and disconnected, and I had very little to do with the Spanish language. We do not touch borders. We do not touch hemispheres. Like, do we touch hemispheres? It's just a very, very far away world for me. I did study about the Mayans in high school, though. I studied ancient history, but we learnt more about Mayan civilization, the Mayan sort of like architectural structure, not so much Mayan gods, but the Mayan calendar, and what they brought, and then how a lot of their discoveries, inventions affected the rest of sort of like mythology. They took it and ran with it. So I hear you on that, Vaidin. I hear that. Okay, so people are relating to the get out of your hometown. Not Vaidin. Vaidin says, I feel the opposite way. I love my hometown. Oh, that's sweet. I like that. V-Rock Vandal says, I joined the Navy at 20 to get out and away from my family, and I never looked back. I think my life would have never progressed if I didn't. So in saying that, J. Bunt Rock, do you find that thirst for exploration, do you have that in common with Cassiopeia in the book? Do you kind of get that? Do you get wanting out?
Yeah, my younger self does. I was definitely like that, just wanting to get out and be my own man. You know, now I'm over 40 and I've married with kids, so the older me is more settled. But yeah, the younger me definitely identified with that.
Yeah, I like that. I wish there was a character there to react to the info dumps. Toaster Poster, what an amazing, astute sort of observation in the writing. You are talking between two characters that both understand what's happening. A lot of writing in fantasy is usually you will have the mentor-based character, your Obi-Wan Kenobi teaching Luke about the Force, Dumbledore teaching Harry about magic. You have the experienced person teaching someone who's very newly introduced to the world. I feel in this instance you are exactly right. A character that can kind of help the reader process along. That piece is slightly missing because at the end of the day, Cassiopeia has learnt about Mayan mythology. The world that they've built, it's not mythology. It is a part of the culture. So the only kind of information that she's asking Hunkme is kind of fact-checking what she's already heard from folklore. Is this true? Is that what's happening? It actually really did help when it was like, you know, they're very much a Catholic religion now. So if you're talking about gods, how does that work into it? How are you talking about a more ancient folklore mixed in a more modern religion? And I thought that was interesting, but a lurking frog, hello a lurking frog, says those dumps are the primary point of the Doctor's companions as well. Fantastic example of that. Yeah. Thank you for that. All right, Miss Necromancer. Kate, let's get back to the relationship component. And if someone hasn't been able to express first impressions, hit me with those as well. I think we've gotten through everyone. This is the non-luxury of going through the order. I jump around and I can't get on top of it all. If you haven't spoken about a first impression, jump on now. Or forever hold your cheese. Cool. Kate, let's talk about the relationship and the chemistry and the one-sided romance that's taking place in the first half of this book. You said, I kind of like how it's an absolutely one-sided romance, not in a way that she's in love with some guy who's in love with someone else, but as a god. He's just got zero concept of human desire, and it's almost like she's falling in love with the sofa for all the emotional availability he has. Let's talk about the introduction of Cassiopeia and Hunkme.
Oh, it's not even like someone who's just not interested in her, you know what I mean? Like
he just
someone who's in a relationship or someone who's got trauma. Can you hear me? Okay, I thought you said I was muted.
Oh, I said no. For Hunkme, it doesn't compute. It doesn't compute.
Yeah, and like I was saying, it's like in most other romances, if someone's not available for that romance, it's because they're into someone else or, you know, they're just not in a place emotionally for romance, or they might be like on the A spectrum or something. But in all of those instances, human, they still understand human connections and that sort of thing, but he doesn't at all. Like there's that whole part where she's kind of thinking, like she has that like Catholic shame thing where it's like, oh no, like a man I'm alone with, and he's like, look here's like, what's wrong with you? Like he can't understand the emotions that are like going over her face. He has absolutely no idea.
Do you think though?
And the only
now that
the
you've
only
said that
times
out
he's
loud, no, you go, and then I'll bring my.
the only times he's even human is because of her. You can see because of like that connection with the bone in her hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Leaking that human emotion, but he still wouldn't understand human connection thing. And Vaidin also said the whole thing is like he's also the best dude in her life because he doesn't have those. Like all the other men in this book, and him
Suck.
too, are just garbage.
Yes.
They fucking suck.
Now, okay, there's so many points that I want to bring up. 3 separate things. The first one, now that we've touched on the fact that all men are shit in this book, do you kind of like that flip in gender exploration? Cinderella, it's the evil stepmother and evil stepsisters, and the father was the good man. Excuse me. In this instance, you have your Cinderella in Cassiopeia, but all the men in her life are oppressive and shit. Do you think that I mean, I love the fact that the men are villains again in this take, but
not really, because her mother's not like a jerk like everyone else is. She's still not like, you know, she's a non-entity because it's just like just pray. It's like
so that's kind
it
of my
doesn't
point.
do anything, and she's also like a villainous character too because she's just kind of she knows how the rest of the family is treating her daughter. And it's just like, oh, whatever. It's just like she's just as bad.
So it sounds like this is what 1920s sort of Mexico was like, and that is.
Yeah, I didn't connect the gender thing at all because it's like, you know, the same situation as like with Cinderella.
Well, it's also
because
the same
she doesn't have
in Mexican Gothic. It was the patriarch that was oppressive in that one as well. So,
and I guess that's kind of why her mother is like that, and all these other female characters that don't even have names who are in the background, like the aunts and sisters and the hangers-on to the estate, right? They're just
they accepted the
like care about is the money.
To go back to a point that you mentioned earlier about the fact that Hunkame doesn't necessarily, is it with the N or an M? When I hear it, it's very hard to do it. Hun with an N, Hunkame. You were saying that Hunkame, who is, for those that don't really know much about the book, Hunkame is the ousted underworld god of the underworld, who has been trapped in a box by technically Cassiopeia's grandfather, working with Hunkame's brother to exalt to take over the throne and the position as that god. So it's a battle of 2 brothers for the throne of the underworld, and it just so happens that this mortal family is mixed up in it. Now, Cassiopeia's grandfather was rewarded very richly in terms of monetary benefits for his role in capturing Hunkame in the chest. Now, obviously, this being a patriarch, the men of the family are supposed to be the most important. We learn that Cassiopeia, even though she is treated as the help, she's supposed to wait on the men in the family. She's a firecracker. She's absolutely just like revving to go and is finding ways to fight back at her cousin, who is the man of the household, Martin. Now, it's super interesting when we get into Martin's point of view, because you hear his insecurities and how being the man of the house and this toxic masculinity has the effect on him. But because he feels bullied into being a man, he then uses that masculinity in that toxic way by then destroying and minimizing Cassiopeia as a person, as a woman. What I want to talk about, though, when Hunkame is out, she has unleashed this god, and the only way that he can be connected into this world is to basically graft his bone, a bone of his finger, into her. And this acts as a siphon where he siphons Cassiopeia's life essence, which anchors him to the earth, but also turns him more and more mortal, using her humanity in a way. When you mentioned earlier, Kate, that when she's having these bouts of Catholicism shame, where she can't believe she has to sit on a bed or be near or, you know, sharing that sort of like physical space with a man, and how absolutely unacceptable that is. That's a very Catholic viewpoint. Because he is an old god, do you think that that's why he doesn't understand it? Is it because he doesn't roam the earth, or is it because this new god with its new beliefs is something that is an incredibly foreign thing to him?
I think a little bit of both. I think also, I mean, I'm not well versed in this mythology, but he's not a god that has a ton of connections to humanity, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's not like a god who deals with humans all the time. So even before Catholicism, when people were still worshiping him, I don't think he would have known much about humanity anyway.
Right. Because of that absolute disconnect with gods.
Yeah, like he doesn't hang around with like he doesn't, you know, try and get people to, he's not like Lore or whatever that demon's name is, where he's like interacting with humans all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He's just essentially the underworld, and yeah, so he deals with the dead. Usually gods of death are very detached emotionally because of the whole, you know, death being like a non-emotional thing. But yeah, I don't think the Catholicism has anything to do with it. Even if this had taken place before Catholicism, he probably still would have had the same reaction.
Bringing the whole, let's, you know, remind everyone what he's the god of, and the fact that it is the underworld. Great input. 50 points to Slytherin. I'm really glad you brought that up, because that actually makes a lot of sense. I read out True Scorn's comments because the comments are his voice. Cersei was a good translation of mythology, but this has some interesting takes on how to put mythology into narrative. I like that. Vaidin says, oh, thank you so much, Nomish Arcane. Thanks for the follow. Welcome to Book Chat. We're talking about Gods of Shade and... Why do I do that every time? Gods of Shade and Shadow. You need to sleep. Gods of Jade and Shadow. Welcome. We are talking about the first half of the book. We got another hour and 5 minutes talking about the first half of the book before we'll get stuck into the second half next week. Vaidin, thank you so much for gifting B-Rock Vandal, J Buntrock here, a sub. The fact that you're both in the same chat is really cute. Thank you for that. Vaidin says, also, despite his lack of human desire, he also treats her better than any other man in her life, which is just super sad. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. If you've only been treated like rubbish and someone treats you okay, that okay looks like, ooh, amazing. Pile of bones to naked dude is a heck of a meat cute. Thank you for that, Michelle. B-Rock Vandal says she constantly is afraid of what her priest will think, showing what a grip her moral teachings have on her. Can I just be grateful that religion didn't literally lock a metaphorical chastity belt on, you know, existence? Bull. Mini White Rabbit says Moreno's books have always have extremely contrasting men and women. Very strong character personalities to contrast the protagonist. I love that observation. And then adds in to say the patriarch in Mexican Gothic was named after H.P. Lovecraft. I love that you said that. I did a little research on Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Silvia Moreno-Garcia, my bad. Mexican by birth, Canadian by inclination. Silvia Moreno-Garcia is the author of a number of critically acclaimed novels, including Gods of Jade and Shadow, Mexican Gothic, and others. She's a columnist for the Washington Post. She's got an MA. Is that a Master's in Arts? MA? I don't know, it's different in Australia. I'm losing my focus. I'm losing my freaking mind. So just focus. I'll get onto that. Beep. Bop, bop. Autofocus. She has an MA in Science and Technology Studies from the University of British Columbia. Her thesis can be read online. And this is why I bring it up, Mini White Rabbit. Because it is titled Magna Mater. Women and Eugenic Thought in the Work of H.P. Lovecraft. And as we know, eugenics is a huge theme in Mexican Gothic. I thought that was very, very interesting. Kate says, it's funny that not even real power that the family got rewarded with. Like, sure, they're the most powerful, wealthy family in town, but it's a shitty one-horse burg town. And even Martin points out that he doesn't want to go to Merida because he wouldn't be powerful there. Yeah, so it's like, I always think back to Willow, the movie with Val Kilmer, where you've got the land of the shorter statured, and the mayor there is a piece of shit, but he doesn't last any kind of like, he has no hope outside of that small town. He's only big because, oh, that's a pun. I didn't mean for it to be a small town. I love Willow. It's a great movie. I absolutely love it. Thank you. Kate follows up by saying, so they essentially sold their souls for middle management level of power. There you go. I recall it was mentioned, says Vaidin, that Hunkame wasn't interested with modern humans and seems content mostly to leave them alone. There you go. Clever Girl adds to that, I think he said something about the natural order and that his brother was wanting to disrupt it by exceeding his power or realm. So yeah, this is what I want to have a chat about before we get stuck into that. Excuse me. Avery confirms that yes, MA is Master of Arts. Minnie White Rabbit says, yes, her column in Washington Post is quite good. She mentions a lot of books that fly under the radar and books that I haven't thought of since I was a child, like Prosperous Children. Oh, Minnie White Rabbit, covered Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern for Nerdist Book Club, where it kind of like features Prospero the Magician. I don't know if it's the same Prospero, but it seems like a kind of unusual and unique word that I'm making the assumption. Michelle says, I had such a liberal for Catholic upbringing. It always blows my mind when I'm faced with the imposing, brainwashy orthodoxy of the religion outside of my experiences. Ooh, I can imagine, but I can only imagine because that is not my world or my life. I was brought up literally agnostic. My parents were like, find what fits and go for it if you want. Toasted Poster says a new Willow is being made. Yeah, my friend's in it. Told me stuff that I'm not allowed to share. Sorry. So stoked though. I remember interviewing Ron Howard about it on a carpet in 2014, and he already kind of like had the wheels in motion then. 2014, and now it's 2021. Avery says, also brought up agnostic, was told the exact same thing. Oh, I love that, Avery. I think I know why we get along very, very well. So the thing I wanted to talk about was the mythology in Gods of Jade and Shadow. When we look at sort of the fusion of integrating and learning about the old gods whilst in a new god world, for me, I think a big thing that I noticed was her immediate trust. And we've kind of discerned where this came from. When you are given only shit and someone gives you an out, you go, you take it. And maybe you don't ask the kind of questions or even learn if safety is a part of it. You just know that whatever it's going to be is going to be better than what you've had. So Cassiopeia goes along with this god. She's heard of the god. She doesn't really know so much about it. Us as the reader knows next to nothing about Hunkame. We are learning through Cassiopeia who these gods are, and I've noticed myself trying to, especially when we finally get to the chapter where we are learning about Hunkame's brother, and we actually start hearing from his brother's perspective. Vakubkame? How do we say that one? If anyone's been listening, I just can't remember how it's said. Lisa, can you tell me how the audiobook says the brother's name? Vakub? Vakub? Like Jacob?
Yeah, I think you said it right the first time. They sound so similar. It was kind of confusing sometimes.
Yeah. Yes, and there's like some things that are silent. Yuku, Kame? Vaku.
Yes, it sounded to me like Yukukume, but
Vakukume.
I don't know.
Yeah, Vakukume? Vakukume? Yeah, something like that. I don't remember the B being there, but okay, great, thank you. Yes, I know, Kate, it's, and I think that's where I would get bogged down slightly, just because it's not an effortless thing for me. But Vakukume, let's say, we finally get his perspective. What I love about Silvia's writing is that we don't have inherently good and evil in the godlike realm. We definitely have it in her family. The men, bad. She, good. Wants to escape, wants to get rid of the bad. The patriarchy, bad. With these gods, I kind of see a theme with how a lot of contemporary mythology in fiction is written. And I want to bring up American gods in this instance. American gods, none of them are great. None of them are good. None of them are wholesome. None of them deserve to be deities. And I think actually Circe, we can talk about that even though it's not contemporary at all. It's very much sort of ancient history. But when you are immortal, the longer you are alive, the more, not even morally ambiguous, the more destructive you become. And what I find interesting is the hints that are being dropped about whether they are good people or not. Does Hunkame treat Cassiopeia with respect? Somewhat, yes. Is he using her? Yes. But is he treating her with respect and trying to save her from the ghosts? Treat her well, make sure she's got new clothes? Yes. How are we seeing Vakukume treat the grandfather and Martin? With threats, with fear. So already you see slightly polarizing difference between the brothers. I found myself thinking halfway through the book, did she choose the right side? Because we learn that this is a part of their family legacy. The grandfather and now the cousin, the men, are working for one god, and she has undone the work that they have done by releasing the remains of the second god. And she immediately sides with him and not her family or the legacy. And I'm like, why did he get locked away? There's so many shades of grey. Neither of them are great. Who is the good one? Who are we rooting for? I want to open up that conversation with the chat. What were your takes on these two brothers? Did you have that same perspective? Am I alone in wondering if she chose the right side? I think another bit of information that kind of made me question things were a lot of these gods have like an animal pet or said to be sort of like associated with an animal. And Hunkame was the snake, and Hukukume was the owl. And when you take sort of like wisdom and like historical knowledge of mythology into what those animals represent, the snake in Christianity was the devil, and an owl has often represented, like in Greek mythology with Athena, the owl has represented wisdom. So when I saw what their animal sort of like spirits were, I was like, holy shit, if Hunkame is the snake, alarm bells. So does anyone have any sort of thing to input into that side of it, the brothers and who we're rooting for?
My point of view.
Yes, Jimmy, and then we'll go Colleen.
Sure. My point of view is like, that one, like you said, was placed away in this treasure chest, and then you had another one that was out and about, as so to speak, and so like, it makes me think, this is just my point of view, that the person in the treasure chest was the underdog.
Right.
I know that they do seem like they're the bad one or the misunderstood one, but it's a lot of times something may seem like it's bad, but it's actually good. You know what I mean? Like, that's just my point of view. Like, because you ever heard that saying, it's like choosing one of the lesser of the two evils? They're both evil. It's just that one
is the lesser. Yeah.
lesser. Yeah, so
Oh,
you know,
less
it's very
material.
similar to Disenchanted, where the you got Bean and you got her devil friend. You know what I mean? If you've ever seen
I
Disenchanted.
don't think I have.
And I'm just saying it's very similar. Like, he's a demon, yet he's very friendly towards her. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, that's my cut of it.
Colleen, what you got?
In Aztec and Mayan culture, the snakes represented a deity. I think it's a symbol of power and not necessarily evil.
Interesting.
In fact, the feathered serpent represented one of the most supreme of the gods.
Oh,
In the
fantastic.
Aztec.
Okay. That's why we have a Colleen in here. Love that. I agree with you, Kate. Yes, the symbolism of the snake is Christianity only, so it's a biblical reference. But like, that's the thing. I'm like trying to find clues on, are we having the wool pulled over our eyes here as the reader by not knowing sort of like enough about these deities? Michelle says it was so interesting when Vukukume's was like, don't be mean to her, Martin. Why would you do something so counterproductive? See? And you're like, oh, is he good? Because Kate says humanity is all about how we mediate. We are because our lives, how we mediate we are because our lives are so short. When that urgency is, oh, we're talking about sort of like the gods, thank you. When that urgency is gone, we start to lose what makes us human. Immortality is the true death of humanity, not the physical form's demise. Well said. I get that completely. I think we were bringing up Addie LaRue. Yes, Chris did. In The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, her immortality slowly took her away from feeling human. And then Minnie White Rabbit says, I really disliked The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I think I'm the only one. I might have to agree with you there. We covered The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue last September. We have got 4 hours, 2 different videos talking about that entire book. If you want to check that out on the YouTube page, Geek Bomb. But if you didn't like it, I think you didn't have to. And that's what's so great about book club. We hear different perspectives. No one's right, no one's wrong. All we do is learn from each other. It's really cool. B-Rock Vandal says, I believe Vukukume wants to unleash hell on earth, which is why he wants to connect the power of the Baha, when Hunkume just wants to reside in Zabalba and leave man alone. Yes, and we only really hear the intention of this when Cassiopeia finally asks Hunkume what's going on. She finally wants answers, and she's almost scared. Oh my gosh, I'm like demanding sort of information from a god. But the way that he says that. Now, we've discussed this a lot in Nerdist, the whole notion of the unreliable narrator. And even though this is third person, we are hearing only a perspective and an answer from Hunkume. Is it true? Is it a lie? Is he trying to get her on his side? Is he telling her what he wants to hear? We don't necessarily know that yet. But immediately upon hearing the two sides, and Yukukume wants to have a part of the ultimate sacrifice that you can make towards gods is beheading. Immediately you're like, ooh, that's bad. Immediately no. Immediately no. And he's painting something that is vile, that is sort of like the bad side of religion, which is a greater good sort of message there, where it's like, kill people. For us, it's the greater good. You will be rewarded. Ugh, that's a hard no, thank you. Black Belt says, yeah, he's still a god of death, and we haven't really seen him do anything bad or anything good, so we don't really know how he would be as a ruler, and we only have his word to go on. Exactly. Michelle says, snakes are good luck and positive in a lot of Asian mythology. You're right, there is a snake in the zodiac. I just watched Fruits Basket and learned all about it. Kate says snakes can be seen as change, a lack of rigidity, and swiftness. Ooh, love this info. Avery says Yukukume is obsessed with being worshipped, and Hunkume doesn't really care about humanity. That is the other part about American Gods that resonated, that I could see sort of the similarities. And that is, if you have gods walking on earth, what keeps them there? And it's worship. It is, if we don't have people worshipping us, making sacrifices to us, saying prayers to us, using our name, we lose our importance and we lose our spirit connection to earth. They cease to exist. So it is then up to the god to almost, it's like a bad pyramid scheme. It's like, please say my name and worship to me so I can stay alive. It's conditional. I like that as a theme. I thought it was very effective in American Gods, and seeing it here, I wasn't bothered by that. I'm like, oh yeah, it actually does make a lot of sense. Vaidin says snakes are also symbolized with life, as seen in the, I'm not saying that, Caduceus, and the rod of Asclepius? Are these words? As you can see in hospitals, owls are often omens in death. Oh, and mythology as well. Oh, there you go. I've never seen those words before. Caduceus. Caduceus? Caduceus. Crygen. Thanks so much for the follow. Welcome to Book Club. We are chatting about Gods of Jade and Shadow. I got it right that time. The lesser of two evils, aka American politics. You ain't wrong. Jeff 2.0 says, I don't know that there is a clear indication, but one of them did murder the other one. True, but I mean, when you killing, heroes kill the bad guy. Are they bad? They're stopping someone from doing more evil, even though it's technically an evil act. You know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot of gray areas. And that's the thing, like, as a reader, I'm just like, you want me to think that that's the bad guy because that was a bad action. But when you hear context, when you hear motivation, when you hear explanation, I don't know, it can change things. We're just not given enough. Toaster Poster says, there you go. There's not enough information for me to make a definitive choice between the two brothers. I think we'll get more info in the second half of the book. I like Kumkame, but we don't know why he was locked up. Kukukame, Yukulkame wants the throne, yes, but are there other reasons? Toaster Poster, again, you have eloquently put into words what is going on in my head. Owls are harbingers of death in old Mexican culture. Clever girl, thank you. 15 points to Hufflepuff. I say that with love. Lisa says, that's the only, oh yeah, the fact that someone committed murder. Got it. Kate says the only way you can kill a god is to stop believing in them. Maybe. If I start talking about that, I'm gonna unpack a lot of stuff. Because I would believe more in faith than I would in religion. Oh, Mini White Rabbit said I just subbed on Patreon since I love books and have virtually no one to talk about it. Looking forward to discovering books I like. Mini White Rabbit, have you connected a Discord? If you have a Discord and you've connected it to Patreon, you will automatically gain entry into our Discord and get access to the chat. And you can join in and get in right now. I see welcome. We have Joan of Sarcasm. Is that you? C. Conroy has joined as well. Thank you, C. Conroy. But if Joan of Sarcasm, if that is you, and you've signed up to Patreon, you will notice that the reading channel is open to you and a voice channel called Book Club. If you click on that, you'll join the voice chat and we can talk. I'd love to be able to meet you properly. Yay! I really love hearing that. That's fantastic. Crygen says, feels amazing, man. Oh yeah, snow cold? Snow cold? Okay. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I'm guessing it's like a cryogen kind of play on words, so I'll give you that. Xana said, the Iron Druid Chronicles had a similar take on gods as American gods. Xana, welcome to the chat. Thank you so much for dropping that nugget. I don't know the Iron Druid Chronicles, but it does seem like that when we are mentioning sort of like religion, worship, deities, this is a really common theme. What gives the gods their power? And it's worship. That's interesting. Michelle says a lot of mythology has a sort of built-in balance in any given pantheon. I see brothers in this book as two halves. They are important because together they are more representative of the whole human experience, which has both good and bad together. Oh, I I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love that. Mini White Rabbit says, oh no, I have so many trashy books on my Goodreads. Ha ha ha. You're in great company. Meet Lisa. We love romance. I'm literally going to go through Lisa's whole collection and be like, all right, let's go. So you're in good company here. Also, Lisa is the undisputed most read books in our community. How many was it? 200 and what? Sorry, Lisa, I keep parading you, but it's so fascinating to me.
Last year, I don't know, it was like 230 something. Tell her to read less and do more cleaning.
Lisa is our Cinderella of the group. Your sister put you on blast. Lisa-rella. Love that. I'm just saying that Martin's in the back of Lisa's call. Oh, I'm getting the giggle. Kay says Mesoamerican religions were all blood religions, though. Sacrifice was the norm. Eek. I know. Oh, if there's bad favor and bad weather, here, we'll just keep slitting throats until something good happens. Avery says Mayan mythology used a lot of duos, the brothers, the hero twins, etc. Oh, love knowing that. And then Colleen says this made me think about the hero twins. There you go, in the Navajo mythology. There you go. Nope, Navajo. Got that dyslexic going on strong. Good, but I called it out. B-Rock Vandal says, I want more of the owls and Shebay. How is that one pronounced again for those reading the audio? Shebay? 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 Does anyone remember how the god who had the parrot? What's her name? Shebay. It's no one's correcting me.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna attempt that one.
Shebay. We heard it though, and she said it, and I remember thinking like, wow, that just seems so effortless when they say it. Shebay.
I don't remember how to pronounce it, but if it ends in an AY, that would be an I sound in Spanish.
Shebay?
Yeah, something like that.
I could go to the chapter and listen to it. Or I could put a Maude flair on it and be very, very wrong. Jeff 2.0 says they talked about why he killed him. He was ignoring the middle world of humans, which Yukukume did not think was the proper thing to do. Thank you, Jeff 2.0. Kate says religion and spirituality are two different things. They sure are. And I only subscribe to one. Oh, Minnie says, I'm Joan of Sarcasm. Did you manage to find your way into the chat there? So you're in welcome. If you scroll down to the channels, you'll see... Oh, you're there! Joan of Sarcasm? Is your name Joan? Do you want to unmute and introduce yourself? Welcome to Book Chat.
My name is actually Kristen. I am, funny enough, I'm a community manager in the game space. So I play a lot of games, but have a deep love of books. My first job was actually in a bookstore. So I'm happy to find a place to talk about books and also geek out with people. So this is great.
Yay! Well, Miss Necromancer, Kate in the chat, she works at a bookstore. And Avery works in a library. And Michelle works in a library. So you're
No, you always think I do.
Why do I think you do?
Yeah.
Why do I think I'm like committed to this?
I do read a lot.
You don't work in a library. I can just I see you like
I do now.
with the cart. I can just like see you with the cart and the books, and you're putting the books in the shop. That's
my energy is working then. Like what I'm putting out in the world.
Okay, yeah, I am sold. Christine,
but it's all good. I respond to virtually every version of Kristen.
I mean, as someone that I feel like my biggest Achilles heel is Kristen and Kirsten, and Kirstine, not one, no, there you go. Kristen, with Geek Bomb as well, we stream video games, we talk about games. As you can see, we have a gaming section playing We talk about TV and watching. We talk about what you're currently playing, watching, and reading, which is what POWER stands for. So you can talk about all those things. You are going to have fun here. And I'd love to learn more about the community manager that you are. Like, that's just sounds very interesting.
I am here for it. Well, let me know if you need anything for high-res games, because I work for high-res, so there you go.
Okay. Well, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here, as is all the community. We're thrilled. We love collecting awesome people. You picked up romance books during the pandemic. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were just easy reads, and so half of my Goodreads is actual good books, and the other half are just like trashy lewd reads.
Honestly, with the pandemic, it's just like, I want to be anywhere but here, thank you. So I hear you with that. I did a lot of fantasy romance. I'm like, oh, as I call it, poor Hector. So with Nerdist Book Club, I have two co-hosts, Rachel Hine and Hector Navarra. Hector is very much into comic books, and we always talk about recommendations. And I was like, well, if you want to know about phase fucking, I gotcha. Because that's what that is what I'm reading, and that is all it is. You see the color drain from his face. Yeah, anyway, that was my overshare. Colleen says, in Zeus is dead, the other gods murder Zeus so they can come back to interfere in modern society. Ooh, that's interesting. Was Zeus a bad leader? This is the thing. People want to usurp power. Scrolling. Sorry, I'm just getting through the chat. Page 108, 109 in the text talks about why Yukikume killed. Oh, there you go. Yukikume, thank you for checking out the page number for that one. Emperor and Talia, lovely to have you, Lise. Are you in the chat? I don't see you in the chat today. If you want to jump on, I'd love to say hi. American Gods indicated that it's the belief of humanity that creates gods in the first place. There's a speech made by a powerful supernatural being in a certain 80s movie that references that idea too. The belief of humanity creates gods. X to B. Oh, X to B. Oh, we're talking about. Oh, Shtabari. Still caught up on that. That's all right. That's okay. Shtabai.
There's a little E sound at the end. It's a diphthong.
Shtabai. Thank you, Colleen. Shtabai. Michelle doesn't work in a library. Oh, that's great. Alrighty. Sorry, I'm making my way through the chat. I think Hector would really be into Vicious, says Fatal Flower. Oh my gosh, I know. It was on the list. In fact, some of us voted for Vicious just to give Hector a break. Hector has announced in the reading section of the Discord that he is struggling with The Lies of Locke Lamora, which is our book of the month for Nerdist Book Club, which we'll be getting into on the last Wednesday of this month. Poor thing. I'm reading it instead of listening to it, which doesn't usually happen. It's a thick book. I forgot about it. Shtabai. Alrighty. Kate says, and thank you for bringing us back on conversation. I really like Shtabai as a character. Something that I noticed about the interactions with deities in this book, even though Humkame does not have it at all, any seductive bone in his body, he's completely disconnected. You have the likes of, was it Lowray? Initially, Lowray, who walks among the humans. He's an elementalist. He conducts wind, I thought. Lowray? I'm looking at my notes. Lowray? Juan the man. Sorry, that was another guy. Good. Lowray was the demon. My bad. Yes, Juan the man. Right. Cassiopeia used seduction to get him to tie him up for Humkame to question. So that was him being a womanizer. But now we see Shtabai use another sort of version of seduction to put Hunkame under a spell. What is it about seduction being a god's weakness? Anyone? Who wants to take on that? Kate, I'm throwing it over to you.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Yep.
Well, it's the same thing in it's the same thing in a lot of polytheistic kind of societies. You see it a lot in the Greek mythology as well, that the humanity in their gods. So, of course, sexual desire is, sex and death are the two things that kind of drive humans. So, having their gods have sexual desires is a way to mirror humanity. Unlike in the more monotheistic, are essentially unreachable perfection, and all that kind of sexual desire stuff is used as a shame currency.
Well said.
So seeing that desire in a god is just the mirroring of humanity.
Okay, thank you for that. I knew I could count on you. KP Dubs, 12 months of subs. Happy 1 year. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for bringing the puns. Alrighty, so we're kind of talking about Shabai. We've finally found a female god as well. It's not, the patriarch is not sort of something that is super focused on only male gods. We do have female gods here, but the alliance, I guess, and the allegiance is ever flowing between who it is that deserves to be on the throne. And they all say that Hukukume is stronger and should be there. Yeah, I have to go with Tosa Poster on this. We just don't have enough information. I don't really know how it's going to go. It's going to be interesting. Some of the themes that we're talking about here. Ooh, greed and entitlement versus contentment, Vaidin. Let's talk about some of these themes. I like that one. Greed and entitlement versus contentment. Talk me through this as a theme in the book.
Okay, so basically, the way I look at it is, you have people, someone like Martin or Fukukame, where they feel like they kind of owed their power, or they owed their position by virtue of their birth. Like Martin is just a guy, and that's it. He has no positive qualities, right? He's just, I was born this way, and therefore I owed everything as a result. And so Fukukame is kind of similar in that he feels like he's owed a lot just because of his birth. And so they have some parallels there. While Cassiopeia is the opposite. She gets nothing just because she's born a woman. That's it. That's literally it.
I like that, and actually really kind of forges the pairing between them. Hukukume is entitled and therefore uses the entitled members of the family to support his venture. And then Hunkame, we're not really sure. We are seeing him kind of ebb and flow with his humanity in front of Cassiopeia. But it sounds like he just wants to let people do their thing. I guess there's an element of kindness there when it is comparative to what Hukukume wants to do. And Cassiopeia, even though she's a firecracker, at the end of the day, has her heart's in a really kind place. So I see those parallels. I like that.
Yeah, I would say basically Hunkame is more like a neutral party. He's not trying to take over the humanity. He's not trying to force them to do anything. He kind of just wants to have his world and have them have there. That's why he ignores the middle world.
Jeff 2.0 makes a great point as well. Hukukume usurps Hunkame, and Martin usurps his father by taking his place as number 2 in the Lever family. There it is. Jeff, you've also said that some of the themes in this are humanity and redemption. I'd love for you to expand upon those.
Sure. So I get the impression, so the reason it appears that Hunkame, lost his kingdom is because of lack of interest in humanity. And now that he's been in prison, he's forced to become human to bring back his throne. I think they're setting up a redemption arc where he becomes more and more human, and thus kind of overcomes his flaw, basically.
I like that. What do they say? Like, to understand a person, walk a mile in their shoes.
Exactly.
I like that a lot. I'm just going through all the other themes that we have here. One is forgiveness, family and the patriarch. We touched upon that. The role of women. Touched upon that. It was really interesting as well how we learn about sort of like not only in her household, but in this new area of Mexico that it sounds like she's come from like, you know, this really, really small kind of like Tonki Island where things are a little bit backwards. And now she's like, oh my gosh, I just want to explore. I want to live. I want to dance. But we still learn about the class system, like when she goes to not the saloon, you know, the place to dance. And it's like where you stand on what level or what access you have in this establishment indicates what class you're in. And it's like you have to get a ticket and you have to almost get like your VIP treatment because that's where all the established women are. And then the next level down are the maids and like almost servants, and like you can't be seen with them. And then the last one, like the bottom rung, is where all the whores are, and you absolutely cannot be seen and associate with them. So it's like, even though she's escaped sort of like the oppression of the patriarchy in her household, she's now sort of like rediscovering what her place as a woman within a women's class system looks like. And then of course, the only reason why you want to go to that top tier where you pay to get a ticket is so that the quality men will ask you to dance so you can make a good wife. What are we talking about? The 1920s. Ugh. I really liked as well, and I thought that Silvia Moreno-Garcia did a great job of this, is talking about the influences of America into Mexican culture, and how flappers from the 1920s were making their way over, the musical influences, the types of dancing that they were doing, the trickle-down effect. Obviously, that's something that I've never lived through, not only in that era, but in the culture side of things. So it was just fascinating, sort of like the attitude of smoking cigarettes, the car brands and the sort of cars that you drive. I thought it was really, really, really interesting in that regard as well. I liked that. Michelle says Hunkame is kind of like Dream in Sandman, in that they are both, they both find that some humanity after solitary confinement. Find some of that. Sorry, I butchered your beautiful quote. Hunkame is kind of like Dream in Sandman, in that they both find some of that humanity after solitary confinement. Yes, when you have been locked away, and that's a great parallel because Sandman was trapped in a basement, again, by a father-son, grandfather-nephew. I'm seeing themes there. The men pass down the responsibility of holding a god trapped. And then when you have been isolated for so long, and we've had many conversations during a lot of the book clubs about how connection is the most important trait for humanity. We need to be able to connect. Hey, we just got Kristen for the need to connect. So this is something like, this is a basic human instinct that we are looking for, the way to connect. So when you are isolated for decades, even though that's not super long for someone who's immortal, but if you have 100 years of your life taken away from you, when you are just isolated in a box or a chamber or somewhere where you just cannot connect, it does sacrifice a part of that humanity. I really love that observation, Michelle. 50 points to Ravenclaw. 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 Michelle?
I think I usually get Gryffindor, but I will take Ravenclaw.
I'll take it's because you work in a library. Fatal Flower says, I was totally getting the Sandman crossover vibes with Hunkame. There you go. I should have. I just didn't like Sandman. It made me feel icky. B-Rock Vandal, thank you so much for gifting a sub. It's your very first one that you've gifted in the channel. Criternation 3000 just scored your gifted sub. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. And Criternation 3000 went, thank you for the gift sub. Oh, loving that. Avery says, actually, Morpheus is another good example of an old god or immortal being who's neither good nor bad, they just are. I think it's interesting, though, in that case, he has the power of sleep, whereas his sister is the god of death. In this instance, they are both vying for the title and the throne of the underworld. Are they a god of something separate, or are they both that god, but only one can hold the throne at any time. Does anyone know that? If you want to unmute and provide clarity on what the bro's situation is. Anybody? Are they a god of something in their own right, or are they a god of nothing if they don't hold the throne? Anybody?
Well, I would guess, I'm just spitballing here.
Yep.
I would guess that they are a god of nothing until they hold the throne, because why else would they be fighting with each other? Because, I have a brother, and I grew up with him, and we got into a lot of fights, just because I don't know if that's what brothers do. I have no idea. My sisters also got into fights with each other, so maybe it's just my family. But the thing is that that's just what I think. It's like they want to continue the line. They want to be the best at the line. They, like as you've seen in many historical things, like so and so begot this person, so and so begot this person. You know what I mean? It's just basically like a proving ground or a pissing contest, if you will.
Got it. Suro and Peng2257, thanks for the follows that we just got in that last minute. Appreciate you. Welcome to Book Chat. We're talking about Gods of Jade and Shadow. We've got Lisa saying, no idea. Good. I'm glad I'm not alone. Jeff 2.0 jumped on the wiki and said the Popol Vuh has two... Popol Vuh have two leading death gods, but these two are really one. Both are called Death, but while one is known as One Death, the other is called Seven Death. Michelle says, I thought that they were all gods of death. It's just that Hunkame is the CEO. Good way to look at it. Yeah, and then everyone's saying that brothers usually boom boom together. Saro says, I think a big part of this book, welcome by the way, first time chatter, love this. There you are. I think a big part of this book that resonates with me is how it handles mythology and the power of stories and decisions become myths. It's a very different way of looking at mythology than we're used to with typical depictions of like Christianity compared to things like Greek pantheons and Hindu mythology. Yes, we are absolutely loving that as well. What we are getting from Gods of Jade and Shadow is not only an introduction of a sort of take on an era of gods in sort of that somewhat modern but not sort of super ancient, if that makes sense. It's modern. 1920s is still considered modern. Of mythology, but from a Mayan culture. And I think we've had a big chat about the integration between sort of not only storytelling and the narrative mixed in with the lore, the folklore, the mythos, the world building, and the integration between sort of like gods and humans in this has been really, really well done. We're loving it. What was your first impression, Suro, now that you're here and you're joining us? And we're not talking about the second half of the book, but I'd love to know what you gave it out of 5 since you've read it. Adam says, first time chat from viewer. Hi, I'm new here. I just want to say your friend Adam is really cool. I just don't like that I read that out loud. You know? Gaia. Hi, Adam. Lovely to have you here. We're talking books. We have a quote in the doc, and that is, who wrote in blue? Who wrote this particular quote? I'd love for you to read it. Go, B-Rock Vandal. I'd love for you to read it.
Hold on, let me get situated.
Okay, yeah, get us in the zone.
Okay, she smiled. In return, he gave her a smidgen of a smile, so tiny she felt she might have to cup it in her hands to keep it safe, or the wind might blow it away.
Isn't that just beautiful language? Isn't that just so descriptive and so wonderful? When studying English, I hated a lot of it. I loved metaphors and similes, and I noticed that I was so drawn to how you can use language in such a descriptive way, and that's fantastic. Siro? Is it Siro? Siro? Let me get that right. Help me out there. I'd definitely give it 4.5 out of 5. This is a fantastic combination of dark fairy tale romance and this meta-level way of how stories impact stories and make myths. Ah, well said. Welcome to the book club. You can stay. That's great. Kristen says there's also a lot of belief in twins and duality in Mayan beliefs. Twins were in a lot of Mayan iconology and mythology to represent opposites, but regardless connected. Kristen, where did you learn about Mayan mythology and iconology?
Honest to God, Wikipedia. After reading,
Really?
this book. Yes.
When did you first read it?
Sometime last year, I think. Yeah, last year at the end of summer. So I'm kind of hazy on like the first half of the book, which is why I don't want to spoil anything for
Got it.
anyone. But
Yeah.
there is a lot in Mayan mythology. There is a lot with like the importance of the duality, the two different individuals that still represent a whole. It's kind of fascinating. Like I dug really deep into Wikipedia after reading this book because I was genuinely curious if these characters existed. And the more I dug, the more I found just how important this iconography really is. And just like the myths of like the hero twins, and this is even, I believe, in like a lot of Mexican mythology and beliefs as well. Of course, I am American, so I may speak out of turn, and I don't want to. I don't want to act like I'm,
An
the
expert in
go-to.
matter. I hear you.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're teaching me. You know more than I do, so I'm happy to learn through you if that's a way that we can do it, through discussion, which is fantastic. I also love that duality is such a big part of a lot of culture and mythology. Chinese, yin yang, two halves connecting, so that we could, gosh, if we spent 15 minutes on the internet, we could probably find so many instances in which sort of either twins or, Game of Thrones, you had the siblings. Blah. They became a yin and yang. Don't say it, Maude. You already said it. Gross.
It's the contrasting duality and paradoxical pairings, really.
Yeah, let's get back on track with that. Now, because I've got you on the mic, you're putting is it Sero?
Sero or Raj. His name is Niraj.
Hi, Niraj. You totally got roped into this book chat already by Kristen. I will say that Kristen is the one that bullied me into reading this with her. Oh, I love that. Sero also said, or Raj said, I love the way that Cassiopeia is written. This constant back and forth of being unsure about her new freedom and taking charge of her own destiny. Oh, well said. I get why you two are friends. That makes absolute sense to me. Toaster Post is back in here, saying, I hope they talk more about this stuff in the second half of the book. With Hunkame talking about coming from an asteroid. That's right. Did I hear this correctly? Yes. And even Colleen was like, I remember that. I wondered about the connection it might have to... Is that Shibolba? Shikolub? Chicxulub. Thank you, Colleen. The asteroid that triggered the dinosaur extinction. Oh, that's really interesting. Chris has said, I've been doing my mythology research on the Holy King and the Oak King for a story. That's fun research. Love that. Colleen says the impact of the asteroid is still visible, although the crater is in the ocean. Wow, cool. Chris is like, I'm outing you, Raj. Sarah's like, I'm being bullied. Mods. We actually have a mod, a hype emote. Mod hype. Sarah's getting thrown under the bus. I love that. This is what the community is all about. We're not so uppity. We like to have fun. I mean, already Lisa's sister's thrown her under the bus. My brother used to pop in and throw me under the bus from time to time. Mods. Exactly, Fat Black Patrick Swayze. Mods. The mods are out. The mods. We've got another quote that just came in here. Isaac, do you want to tell us about your two quotes that you loved from this? Where did you go? You're in there.
Yeah, the first one I think is really early on, because it's where we start seeing her desire to just get out of there, basically. Like the quote is, her hands were hard and ugly from beating the laundry against the stone lavadero, but her mind had the worst of it. she yearned for for a sliver of freedom.
Ah, well
Uh,
said. Again, like it's so descriptive and it's like you feel the words, you know, you can see like blisters and like the gnarledness that 18-year-old delicate fingers should not have experienced at this time. But the fact that like they're painting such a picture about the physical abuse and it's like that was nothing. Her mind, even though you can't see it, was the most bruised and battered of it all. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then you get what's so important with the protagonist, motivation. You know her desire, you know why she wants out. And I think in that one sentence, you get all the determination and understanding and motivation of Cassiopeia. Lovely. Next quote. Cheers.
And the next one is, I like to count stars with you. I don't know where I even got this idea, but it's there. And I think it's just showing the progress of turning into a human almost. To sort of start getting these feelings of wanting to do something with someone, but you're not really sure why. Like you just know that you like this person and you want to spend time with this person or do something with this person, but
Avery is saying that we haven't gotten up to that one yet. That might be in a later chapter. But I will say, to sort of grant grace with this particular quote, stars were mentioned earlier. As they're roaming around sort of like the town at night, Cassiopeia looks up and she's just like, wow, look at the stars. She makes a comment about their beauty and like taking this consideration into sort of what the sky looks like with the stars. And Hunkame is just like, they're always there. And it's like it's like someone who's sort of wistful and using the right side of their brains and is looking at beauty and sort of like seeing more of a depth in something versus your left logical brain where it's like, but stars always exist in the sky. And I sort of love that sort of like the yin and yang. It comes back to a duality as well with Cassiopeia's longing and desire mixed in with or contradicting and kind of like not reciprocating, not being able to connect with Hunkame's godliness, where it's just like, you know, how are you romanticizing the stars? The stars are always there. I don't really understand. So the fact that this quote then comes into effect actually has a lot more depth behind it. So I like that as well. I'm losing focus. And I'm back. I love that one. Thank you. I love when people add quotes into this as well, because it's just re-experiencing the words that are so impactful in but a moment and immortalizing them is a lot of fun. I like that. We have the last 10 minutes. Does anyone have a theme? If we're all in the doc, I can see that. I think we've gone over a lot of them. Forgiveness, how Cassiopeia talks and acts around a god, and the confidence that she has, or the sassiness, excuse me. I love that. Oh, she uses the stars to keep her connection with her father. Oh. Cassiopeia is a constellation in the sky. Oh. Astronomy was really important to pre-Columbian Central America. Oh. Yay. I love all of that. Mini White Rabbit says, to me, it makes sense that Hunkame is indifferent to the stars, just like death would be. Like the universe, indifferent to the passing of human lives, which are but a moment in the history of the universe. Yeah, I feel like our life is absolutely nothing compared to the life of a star, the scope of the universe. We are such a fleeting existence. If I ever have a bad day, I used to go to Griffith Observatory in LA, and they would have this sort of like scaled representative of the planets. And you'd had a tiny little ball for Mercury, and then you'd have sort of like Earth, and then you would see Saturn and Jupiter, and you would just see how Earth was so small. And then you see the timeline of events and how long, the millions and hundreds of millions of years this has all been going on for, and you're like, I might get 70 years, maybe. So this one little problem that's bumming out my day when looking at this is just nothing. It's so insignificant. Yeah. It helps. Colleen says he's also the god of the underworld, which is represented by caves and sea notes. Colleen? Sea notes? Cenotes? How do you say that word? I like asking. I always love to ask. But how do you...
Can you hear?
Yeah, I got you now.
Cenotes.
Cenotes!
Yes.
Like, after I finish my beer, I feel a little bit cenotes? No. No, I don't mean to flirt, Colleen. It's the beer.
Cenotes are like underground water. Well, they're openings to water that's underground.
Oh, that makes sense. I need to travel more. That's all I learned from that. I have to explore. I've got to get out. Cenotes. Or I should probably do a Spanish course on Duolingo. I was doing Japanese, but then they used the kanji and you had to like write the words. I'm like, I never want to write Japanese. I don't ever want to read Japanese. I just want to speak Japanese. That is a big mountain of a difference between learning a language. But yeah, I should probably learn a little bit more Spanish. Isn't that right, Isaac? You'll have to teach me some stuff.
I actually recommend the Duolingo, the Duolingo Spanish course. It's actually really good.
It is?
Yeah.
You say it so lovely.
And I'm also going diving in a cenote in Mexico soon.
How many times have you done that?
It's gonna be the first time. We don't have any here in Costa Rica.
Oh, really?
So I'm going to Mexico in May. Yeah, in May.
Is this going towards the hours in your diving class? Your course?
Not really. I'm pretty much done with that. I can.
Oh, already?
Yeah. So right now it's just for fun.
Wow, that's exciting. That's really, really cool. Kristen says, I used to look at the stars when I felt really depressed. Made me feel grounded and connected. The fact that we're all made of the same stuff. We are just energy. J-Bone Rock says, I just drove by Griffith Observatory last week during my trip to LA. Oh, Kristen used to live in LA. Oh, I'm learning so much. And Brentalia says, watching a solar eclipse in my backyard a few years ago was a time I really felt how small I am in the universe. It is a wonderful thing in a lot of ways. It makes the very, very unimportant, important things, land their place. Things that shouldn't, don't sweat the small stuff, but sometimes it's just nice to know that. But it also kind of reminds you, it's like, we are only a blip. We don't get long in here. We got to make every day count the best we can. I have not been doing that the last 6 weeks. I will get out of my funk. Maybe I got to go to Griffith Observatory again. Be like, Earth, Jupiter. Ha 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 ha. None of this matters. Colleen says, yeah, we're all made up of star stuff. The elements that make us up originated in the stars. So technically we're kind of gods. They came via asteroid. We're made of star. Kate says, a co-worker of mine is going to Costa Rica in a couple of weeks. She invited me, but I didn't have the cash for the flight. Yeah, I was supposed to go to Maui on Friday, but the hotels are so expensive. Kristen says, fun fact, celestial bodies were also seen as dualities in Mesoamericans being both morning and evening stars. Aww, dropping those facts. I love it. KB Dub says the scale of space, the solar system, a galaxy is pretty much beyond human comprehension. The distances are literally mind-boggling. I know, it's so fascinating. When we did Project Hail Mary, when was that? January? January. Which is, to date, if you are new to Book Chat, Project Hail Mary has been the most loved, highest rated, most accepted and appreciated book that we have covered in our years of Book Chat that we've been doing. If you haven't read Project Hail Mary, we all recommend it. Shout out to our man Rocky. That's right. Avery says, I live in Arizona and I love driving through the desert at night because the skies are so clear. There are so many stars and I feel so connected to the universe when I do that. When people ask me what I miss about home, I say the stars. Same sort of thing, but there's stars everywhere. Not in LA. You look up and it's just smog. I love being able to see the stars. It's one of my favorite things. KB says we're all made of star stuff. We are part of the universe. The universe itself is sentient through us. Oh, I love getting that spiritual. Yes, yes, yes. Jack Skills says some souls burn brighter than most in each life. There you go. Toaster Poster says I follow an astronomy club on Facebook. The meetings are always cancelled because it's cloudy in Seattle. Oh yeah, it's like the cloudiest place. Seattle is usually overcast. Fist bump me. Agree. Have heard so much about Project Hail Mary. I really got to pick it up. Oh, Kristen, you really got to pick it up and then watch the book chats that we did on that. It's so good. I got my whole family into it, and my brothers don't really read, so that was huge. England's laughing at Seattle. I love that. Alrighty. We got 3 more minutes. The homework, finish Gods of Jade and Shadow. If you are a part of the Patreon, you have access to the reading channel there. That is a 24-hour talk about books channel. Not only is that a great place for discussion on this book, please use the spoiler function in the Discord. If you don't know how to do that, people will be there to help you out with it easily, or you could just look it up. But a spoiler, anything that kind of goes into spoilers, make sure you cover it up and blank that out, but discussions are always recommended there. We also talk about anything else you're reading, and that's where you'll find all the information on the Nerdist book club that we do. It's a little bit different structurally wise to what we do here. Nerdist book club, like I said, I have 2 co-hosts. We chat about one book for an hour once a month. The book is The Lies of Loch Lamora. It was my pick, but we did put it to a vote, and that's the book that won. The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch. It is sort of a fantasy heist book. Actually, I wish I brought it with me. I really want to read the forward introduction by Jay Kristoff, who is another fantasy author. The way that he talks about the book is just beautiful. Colleen says, I won't be here next week. I've got a family. Oh, you got family coming? That'll be lovely. We'll miss you. The video on demand will be available on the YouTube page if you do need to watch it later. Sarah says, I need to finish. There is no anti-memetics division. What is that about? Kate says, speaking of Jay Kristoff, we should check out Nevernight sometime. I bought that book 2.5 years ago. It is sitting in my Audible library. I am ready to go. I am very cognizant of only reading a lot of white male written fantasy. It was mentioned earlier. I can't remember who said it, and I apologize for that. But one of their favorite parts about Gods of Jade and Shadow, and Silvia Moreno-Garcia was reading fantasy that's not from a white dude, because the majority of fantasy is white dudes. So, Kristen says, I've been reading almost nothing but women-written fantasy lately. Ooh, you're in good company with that one as well. Black Sun is supposed to be good if you like God of Jade and Shadow. On our Goodreads, we are doing a vote, actually, for our book for June. Was Black Sun one of the options? I defer to Lisa.
No, it was. Here, let me pull it up.
Oh, here we are. The Priory of the Orange Tree, Luminous Dead, One Last Stop, and She Who Became the Sun. That's the Sun book I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Avery's read Black Sun, said, I adored it. Fevered Star is my most anticipated book of the year. Black Belt says, I've heard good things about Black Sun. It's by a female Indigenous author. Sarah says it's about the whole SCP fictional universe, specifically, the book, yes. Specifically how they deal with anomalies or monsters that can't be perceived or remove information about themselves from people's minds. That's got a Doctor Who vibe all over it. Colleen says, I've been reading a lot of Indigenous writers lately, but I recently read a fantasy by an African writer. And then followed up to say, I love Black Sun. I recommend it. Moonwitch Spider King, says Black Belt. Nick, you're reading the sequel to Black Wolf, Red Leopard? Black Leopard, Red Wolf? Oh, what's that bloody book called? Moonwitch? Kate, you're reading it? How are you finding it?
Hundred or so pages in.
How many? 100?
But
100? Sorry, I just caught up
yeah.
the first bit.
And it has the same sort of thing as Black Leopard Red Wolf, where there's like a learning curve to the writing style, and once you kind of get over that first hill, you kind of go right into it.
Okay. I'm not sure I can.
It's in the way like the sentence structure is like laid out and stuff like that. You're kind of like, okay, I gotta like reconfigure my brain for a sec.
Yeah. I listened to the audiobook, and it was done in a very thick African accent. And that was challenging. Not because of the African accent, because they spoke like slam poetry. Because of the words, the way that the writing occurs, it has that sort of like very staccato, very almost like short sentences, and it's quite jarring to kind of get across. I think the narrator did a great job. It was just quite... It was 100%. You have to rewire your brain and how you hear, and it goes against the grain of what sort of like narration and storytelling usually sounds like in a, I want to say phonetic sense, and that's not it at all. I'm losing focus. In a conversational piece. Very different writing. Kristen said I had to rewire my brain to listen to Gideon the Ninth. I just bought that one as well. I thought that's what we were going to do for June. Gideon. Oh, I may have been putting that forward for Nerdist. It's just like lesbian necromancers. That's how we're selling that. I bought it so fast. Colleen says no, it was a new author whose first language is not English. Jasol AD, I think was his name. Oh, there you go. Kristen said it's very good, but it may be a problem that I read Dune before then, which I did not finish. We did Dune for Nerdist. If you need a 6-part breakdown on Dune, we got you covered there. If you look up Nerdist's YouTube page and search Dune. I say Dune. I had to reconfigure how I speak. June, the month. No, the book. Gunloriger. Thank you so much for the follow. We are actually wrapping up part 1 of Gods of Jade and Shadow for our book of March. There we go. I've hit my peak. Let's raid someone and let's see if we can make their day just for a minute or two. That could be lovely. Just drop by, say hi. You know how this goes. I like raiding because it means that we get to make someone's day, get to make them feel a little special, and that's sweet. Any recommendations? Carboni and Lush's Lures on. Jimmy says thanks for the book chat, y'all. I love that. SGS says my birthday's in June. Dude. Toasted Poster, thanks for the stream, Lord. Being here made my night. Aw, no, mine. Thank you. Lisa, thank you so much for the 6-month sub. Appreciate you. I love having you a part of book chat. Absolutely adore it. I was going to say I was going to put forward Wise Man's Fear for one of the options for Nerdist book club for March. Name of the Wings right here. They're just so big, and I just thought it would be such a loss to only talk about the sequel for 1 hour. So I think I'm going to do it for book chat and really put a lot of time and effort into it and make Hector not read it because he just does not like those books at all. I don't understand how or why. I don't get it, but his list always consists of like Conan Barbarian. So you know what? Different strokes for different folks for sure. Kristen said, I had a blast meeting you guys. I've added many new books to my Kindle wish list. Yay! Avery says, I love book chat. I'm excited for next week. Isaac says, this is fun as usual. Colleen says, it's so nice to have some positive vibes in my life tonight. I hope your day gets better, Colleen. Big hugs. Kristen says, so glad to meet fellow book nerds. When I tweet about my books, all the people who follow me for the game I work on are just like, what? Come on by for Geek Bomb. Geek Bomb is open ears. We love all of that. We love it. We love it. We love it. I know that... I don't know. I think that talking about Gods of Jade and Shadow and then going into a game called Dead by Daylight is a little bit of a stretch. But say hi to Critical Bard. let me tell you a little bit about my mate Crit Bard. Omega is a streamer. They, I should say, falls into. I love hearing his sort of like exploration of not only sexuality but gender exploration. I learn a lot from it. But Crit Bard is big on TikTok. He's been doing a lot of sing-alongs from Encanto, which has been great. He does like a great rendition of Talk About Bruno, which went very viral. I'm talking like 5 million views. Has an incredible singing voice. Go by, say hi, tell them Maude sent ya. Drop some geek bombs, especially if you were gifted a sub and you've got cool new emotes there. Even if it's just for 3 minutes, even if you lurk for a moment, that would be amazing. But Crit Bard's an amazing streamer, and I want you just to kind of get familiar with them. So in saying that, I'll see everyone next week. Finish the book. We'll be talking about everything, how this journey ends. It'll be a lot of fun. And then get started on Lies of Loch Lamora as well. See everyone next week.